In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to subtract shapes from each other using the Shape Builder tool. I've gone ahead and saved my progress as ready-to-subtract.ai found inside the 06 Transform folder. And I want to take this object that I've drawn so far, and because we're working in the outline mode, you can see it better here inside the Layers panel. It's this path right there, this green path that appears in front of blue cross on the drawing layer. And I want to go ahead and subtract a couple of elliptical areas in order to better define the scalloped edge. So the first thing I'll do is go over to the Shape Tool flyout menu and select the Ellipse tool, or I could press the L key. And then I'm going to zoom in here. I want you to see that there's a center point right there. And that is the center of one of my tile guidelines that I created in the previous exercise. It appears between the two blue eyes of this creature that seems to stare at us from the photographic tracing template. And I'm going to go ahead and press the Alt key, or the Option key on the Mac, and drag out from that guideline. That centers my ellipse at that location, which ensures that the ellipse will properly align to the shape that I've drawn so far. So I'll go ahead and drag the ellipse so it's about yay big, I figure. And then I'm going to Alt drag or Option drag another ellipse from the top of the previous one so it's about this big. I'll have to move it into position, but I just want to assure that I have central alignment. Then I'll press the V key in order to get my black arrow tool, and I'll drag this shape upward like so. All right, the next trick is to go ahead and subtract these two ellipses from the larger shape. So I'll select all three of them by dragging around them like so. And then, so I can see what I'm doing, I'll Control click or Command click on the eye in front of drawing in order to switch it back to the preview mode. Now I'll go down to the Shape Builder tool. And normally, of course, the Shape Builder adds shapes together, but if you press and hold the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, notice that that little cursor next to the arrowhead switches from a plus sign, which is what you see when no keys are selected, to a minus sign, which is what you see when the Alt or Option key is selected. Now I'm going to drag over these areas like so. Those three areas of intersection in order to subtract them. Then I'll Alt drag or Option drag over this region in order to subtract it. And finally, I can Alt or Option click right there in order to select that shape. Now that didn't quite do it, that Alt or Option click. That is an option that's available to you, but that didn't quite do what I needed it to do. So I'll undo by pressing Control Z, Command Z on the Mac, and I'll try Alt or Option dragging over that area like so. That still leaves a bunch of path fragments, as you can see here inside the Layers panel. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. All of them are currently selected. I'm going to shift click on the meatball for the good path, which is the green one right there, in order to deselect it. Now all the garbagey paths are selected, and I'll press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac in order to delete those paths from my illustration. All right, that's pretty good. I think I've done a pretty good job so far, but I would like to add back in a few of those scalloped edges and actually subtract a larger area here. So I'm going to go ahead and press the V key to switch back to the black arrow tool, click on my path outline to see how far it goes in, which is pretty darn far actually. I'd like to clip off these corners, and I'm going to do that this time using the rectangle tool. So I'll go ahead and select the rectangle tool from the Shape Tool flyout menu, or I could press the M key. And I'm going to Alt drag or Option drag from that center point upward like so until I reach into the shape. And I want to make sure that I'm scooting things over a little bit so that I'm scalping into my corner points in this top shape up there. Now I'll once again press the V key to switch back to my black arrow tool. I'll shift click on the larger shape at top here. And I will go ahead and press Shift M in order to switch to the Shape Builder tool. I'll go ahead and zoom in so we can see what I'm doing a little more closely. I'll Alt drag or Option drag across this region like so in order to delete all three of those path intersections, and we get this effect right there. All right, next, what I'm going to do, notice I no longer have these little curlicues of scalloped edge. I want to add them back in, and I'm going to do that using the blob brush, because I just want to give you a sense of how much flexibility you have by combining these tools together. So using the blob brush, and I think its size is pretty good. If you want to make it smaller, you can, of course, by pressing the left bracket key. But I'm going to go ahead and paint in like so around this edge, and then I'm going to paint down into this edge like that. And notice that that does not join with the previous path, and that is because the fill and stroke attributes are different. So I'm painting a black path with the blob tool that fails to merge with the green path that was previously selected. Anyway, that actually turns out to be a very good thing. I'm going to paint down into this little scalloped edge right there, and maybe down a little like so, and then upward. And that will merge this new blob brush path to the old one. Now I'm going to take this path and reflect it to the other side. And you can see that's why it's so great that the path is separated, because otherwise I'd have very little chance of matching it. I'll press the O key to get my reflect tool over here. And then I will Alt-click or Option-click at this guide intersection right in this location. You can't see my cursor, but as soon as I Alt or Option-click, you can see the target. And I want to reflect across the vertical axis. I'll go ahead and click copy, and notice the deed is done. Now I will get my black arrow tool, and I'll go ahead and marquee these shapes that I've drawn so far, and I will join them together to the best of my ability. Let's see what I can do here using the shape builder tool. So I'll drag all the way across, and that will go ahead and combine all of the paths together. However, it went ahead and filled those paths with black. This is especially irritating because I began dragging from a green portion of the path. So why did Illustrator choose black? Well, I'm going to go ahead and press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that modification, and then I'll show you the solution to this problem in the next exercise.